فاشرف بالاشتغال بالعلم ولا تبغي به ما عشت يا ذا بدلا ويا له من شرف عظيم.
الحمد لله رب العالمين، له الحمد الحسن والثناء الجميل، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له يقول الحق وهو يهدي السبيل، وأشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه والتابعين لهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد, I wanted to inshallah ta'ala talk about the issue of responding, refuting the people of misguidance and the people of innovation. What position does it hold in our religion? Is it permissible? Is it something that you can do? And what ruling does it take in our religion? Is it wajib? Is it mustahab? Is it mubah? Is it makruh? Is it haram? And what's the evidence? Because issues like this, when they come, if they are not dealt with it, or it's not dealt with in line of the Sharia, if it's not looked at through the lens of the Kitab and the Sunnah, then you will find people will fall into confusion and either ifrat or tafrit. Either people will go extreme on doing and criticizing and refuting, or they will go short in doing so. And when I say going extreme in refuting, I mean without observing knowledge, without observing justice in the refutation, and without also having no mercy in the refutation. Because any refutation that doesn't have ilm, knowledge, and adil, justice, and it doesn't also have rahmah in it, it's a refutation that really is incorrect. And it goes against the refutation of the ulama and the people of the sunnah. Some people thought, because there are some refutations that are not based on knowledge, that are not based on justice, that are also not based on mercy, so when they saw that, they thought refutation is wrong in and within itself. But what they didn't understand is that there's nothing wrong with refutation. Through refutation, the religion is protected. But it's a refutation that is not based on knowledge. It is the refutation that is not based on justice. And it's also the refutation that doesn't involve any mercy towards the opponent or the other individual who's being refuted. My goal, inshallah ta'ala, is to bring evidences from the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the aqwal of the ulama, what they had said about this issue, refuting the innovators. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said in a hadith, this hadith, Al-Imam al-Tirmidhi rahimahullah, he narrated in his Sunan, Ibn Majah, Al-Hakim al-Naysaburi in his Kitab al-Mustadrak, Al-Imam al-Tayalisi rahimahullah, Imam Ahmed, on the authority of Abi Sa'id al-Khudri radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he said that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, لا يمنعن رجلا هيبة الناس أن يقول بحق إذا علمه أو شهده أو سمعه. The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said that a person, it should not prevent him the fear of the people, because another riwayah says مخافة الناس, the fear of the people. He's scared of the people. The fear that you have for the people should not prevent you from أن يقول بحق, to say the truth. إذا علمه, when you know it. أو شهده, or you witness it. أو سمعه, or you hear it. And another riwayah says, or if you see it. So whenever you have knowledge of a matter and you know it, or you witness a matter, or you hear a matter, knowing it should now, the fear of the people should not prevent you from it. The fear of the people should not prevent you from saying it. Don't be one who's scared. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He took a covenant with those who know. لَتُبَيِّنُنَّهُ لِلنَّاسِ وَلَا تَكْتُمُونَهُ. You will convey it to the people and that you will not conceal it. So if you know a matter, don't withhold it because you're scared that the people are going to run away from you, or that the people are not going to be pleased with you. And a lot of the times you find a group of people know there is an innovation in a person, or they know that the so-and-so is misguided. Instead of telling the general mass of this individual and warning the general mass of this individual, they don't do that. Why don't they do that? مخافة الناس, because they're scared of the people. مهيبة الناس, they are honoring and putting the people high up above the haqq. So he doesn't say it. He becomes quiet and silent about it. Now that is the first hadith I open with. Al-Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah, Imam Abu Zakaria al-Nawawi, who many of us know how noble and how high he is as a great noble Imam. Imam al-Nawawi has a book called Riyadh al-Salihin. Many of us know it. We know this book. This kitab Riyadh al-Salihin, Imam al-Nawawi chapters a chapter in his Riyadh al-Salihin. And he chaptered it by calling it Babu ma yubahu min al-ghibah. The chapter of that which is permissible from backbiting. Backbiting is permissible at times. Babu chapter ma yubahu min al-ghibah, when backbiting is permissible. And Imam al-Nawawi says, straight after when he brings the chapter in his Kitab Riyadh al-Salihin, he says, اعلم know أن الغيبة تباح لغرض صحيح شرعي لا يمكن الوصول إليه إلا بها وهو ستة أسباب. He says, اعلم know أن الغيبة, that backbiting, تباح, it is permissible. لغرض صحيح شرعي, but if it's done with a correct Islamically legislated purpose. لا يمكن الوصول إليه, and that objective cannot be met except by doing this ghiba, this backbiting. إلا بها. So a person, he has to backbite a person, and the reason why is because لغرض صحيح شرعي, it is for the Sharia. It is for a correct Islamic cause. There's no other way I can fulfill this purpose unless I backbite this person. The Shaykh rahimahullah said it's permissible at this time. وَهُوَ سِتَّةُ أَسْبَابٍ, and it is 6 times when it is غرض صحيح شرعي. It is 6 times when it is Islamically legislated to backbite. So he mentions them all, but the one that concerns us is this one, which is the 4th one he mentions. It's the 4th one he mentions. He says, تحذير المسلمين من الشر ونصيحتهم, to warn the Muslims from an evil. You warn the Muslims from an evil. وَنَصِيحَتُهُمْ, and you advise the Muslims regarding an evil. So what you're doing is, you are warning the Muslims from an evil by advising them. وَذَلِكَ مِنْ وُجُوهٍ, and this, the 4th one, it occurs in many different forms. It comes in different forms of how a person can advise the Muslims from an evil that's going to occur to them. He mentions some. From those he mentions is جَرْحُ الْمَجْرُوحِينَ مِنَ الرُّوَاتِ, the criticism that are placed on the narrators. وَالشُّهُودِ, and also the witnesses. وَذَلِكَ جَائِزٌ, and that is permissible. بِإِجْمَاعِ الْمُسْلِمِينَ, by the consensus of the Muslims. بَلْ وَاجِبٌ لِلْحَاجَةِ, rather it is obligatory when there is a need for it. A narrator in a hadith, it's allowed to be said about him he's a liar if he is a liar. If he is a person who commits sins openly, he can be called a fasiq. These terms that are being used against him are harsh terms. Lying is backbiting. But it's permissible, because it is to protect the Prophet ﷺ's narrations. وَالشُّهُودِ, and also a person, if he can be a witness, we can say Fulan can't be a witness. Or why can't he be a witness? He's a liar. Don't take him as a witness. So criticizing him and critique him is protecting the religion. Because the religion commands us to take two reliable individuals as a witness. They have to be reliable. So if a person criticizes his integrity, it's permissible because the religion is going to be protected. You see? And he says, وَذَلِكَ جَائِزٌ, this is permissible. بِإِجْمَاعِ الْمُسْلِمِينَ, by consent of the Muslims. There's no khilaf. Two individuals do not dispute this. بَلْ rather وَاجِبٌ لِلْحَاجَةِ, if there is a need for it, it's obligatory. وَمِنْهَا, and from them is, وَمِنْهَا, the dhamir goes back to أي تحذير المسلمين من الشر ونصيحتهم, warning the Muslims from the evil and advising him. From them is إذا رأى متفقها يتردد إلى مبتدع. Pay attention to this one. If you see a person who is studying fiqh, a student of fiqh, I mean a person who's trying to understand the religion here, a person who wants to learn the deen, a student of knowledge, you see a student of knowledge, يتردد إلى مبتدع, he's going back and forth to an innovator. Back and forth. He's going to an innovator. أو فاسق, or he's going back and forth to a fasiq. A fasiq is an individual who does sins openly. He does sins openly. So you see a student of knowledge just going back and front to this person. يأخذ عنه العلم, and he's going to him to take knowledge from him. وخاف, and you fear أن يتضرر المتفقه بذلك. You fear, you're scared, you're concerned that this student of knowledge is going to be harmed by going to this individual. فَعَلَيْهِ نَصِيحَتُهُ, it is obligatory on you to advise him. By doing what? بِبَيَانِ حَالِهِ, to clarify the situation of this person who he goes to. By telling him, this individual that you keep going to, this individual is a mubtadi' or he's a fasiq. You have to clarify it to him. It's wajib. Then Imam al-Nawawi goes on to saying, بِشَرْطِ أَن يَقْصِدَ النَّصِيحَةِ, but with the condition that the person intends that this is an advice. وَهَذَا مِمَّا يُغْلَطُ فِيهِ, and this is something that shaitan may come to your intention sometimes. You need to be very concerned of your heart as well. Even that though you're warning this person from that person, you should also remember that this is lillah, for the sake of Allah, intentions and sincerity. Naam. And then Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah, he brings narrations in his Kitab Riyadh al-Salihin. He brings ahadith to prove this argument of his. And that his points that he brought, he brings evidences for it. One of the evidences he brings is the hadith of Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. أن رجلا استأذن على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال. A man came to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم's house and he asked permission if he can enter. And the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم, he said, إِذَنُوا لَهُ, let him in. He said to Aisha, let him in. بِئْسَ أَخُ الْعَشِيرَةِ, evil is the tribe that this man is from. Muttafaqun alayhi, this hadith is narrated by Bukhari and Muslim. This hadith means these tribe are evil because this person is from them. This tribe is evil because this individual is from them. The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the man who had the greatest noble character, وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ, you are of high level of morals and conduct and character, is warning and he is critiquing an individual. To his wife Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, he is saying, بِئْسَ أَخُ الْعَشِيرَةِ. And Imam al-Nawawi is using this as an evidence that backbiting, when it's permissible, بَابُ مَا يُبَاحُ مِنَ الْغِيبَةِ, that when you want to warn the people from an individual's evil, and you want to advise them from it, تَحْذِيرُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ, you're warning the Muslims, مِنَ الشَّرِّ, and evil, وَنَصِيحَتُهُمْ, and you're advising them from this. permissible. The hadith of the Prophet ﷺ here is a clear evidence that the Prophet ﷺ criticized this man and critiqued him. His tribe is evil because of him being amongst them. And then Imam al-Nawawi, straight after that in his Kitab Riyadh al-Salihin, he mentions that the following. He says, احتج به البخاري في جواز غيبة أهل الفساد وأهل الريب. He says that this hadith of Aisha in Bukhari and Muslim, which the Prophet ﷺ said, بئس أخو العشيرة, Imam al-Bukhari used this and made it a proof and argument for himself في جواز غيبة أهل الفساد, the permissibility of backbiting the people of corruption, وأهل الريب, and the people of whims and desires, the innovators. So Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah also used the hadith of Aisha in the permissibility of doing this. Another hadith Imam al-Nawawi brings, the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ, the hadith Sahih al-Bukhari, min hadith Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, قالت, she said, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم said, ما أظن فلانا وفلانا يعرفان من ديننا شيئا. Aisha said that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, I do not think so, that so and so and so and so, both of them know anything from this religion of Islam. ما أظن, I don't think, فلانا, so and so, وفلانا, and also so and so, يعرفان, that they both know من ديننا شيئا, anything from our religion, meaning they're ignorant of this deen. The Prophet saying this, عليه الصلاة والسلام. Al-Imam Al-Layth ibn Sa'ad, who is min ahad al-ruwat al-hadith, one of the narrators who narrated the hadith, the great noble Imam Layth ibn Sa'ad, he says about this hadith, he says, هَذَانِ الرَّجُلَانِ كَانَا مِنَ الْمُنَافِقِينَ. These two men are from the hypocrites. That the Prophet ﷺ is naming them, فُلَانًا وَفُلَانًا, so and so and so and so. He's naming them, he's saying their names, alayhi salatu wasalam. He said about them, مَا أَظُنُّ يَعْرِفَانِ عَنْ مِنْ دِينِنَا شَيْئًا. They don't know nothing about our religion. So the Prophet is clarifying the situation of these two hypocrites, so that people are aware that they do not become deceived with them. Because these hypocrites are in the midst of the Muslims. They're sitting with them, they're eating with them, they are spending time with them, so they have to be warned from them. Our Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, it reached him that a man, Abu Sanabil, gave a verdict. Abu Sanabil gave the verdict that if a woman, her husband dies, and she is pregnant, and she gives birth, that she will have to count the iddah of 4 months and 10 days. أربعة أشهر وعشرة, 4 months and 10 days. He gave that verdict. When in reality, the woman who's pregnant, her iddah is when? حتى يضعن حملهن, until she gives birth, that's it. The iddah is over. So when the Prophet heard that, alayhi salatu wassalam, that incorrect verdict, he said, كذب Abu Sanabil. Abu Sanabil has lied. The Prophet ﷺ critiqued him. And he said, كذب Abu Sanabil. Abu Sanabil has lied. Who is saying this? Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, he said, commenting on this hadith, كذب Abu Sanabil. Ibn Taymiyyah said, وَمَنْ تَكَلَّمَ فِي الدِّينِ, anyone who speaks about this religion, or speaks in this religion, بِلَا عِلْمٍ, without knowledge, كَانَ كَاذِبًا, he's a liar. وَإِنْ كَانَ لَا يَتَعَمَّدُ الْكَذِبِ, even if he does not intend the lying. If a person speaks in this religion, anything regarding the religion of Allah, without any knowledge, he has no knowledge for it, he is a liar, even if he did not intend to lie. And he used the evidence of the hadith of Kadaba Abu Sanabil. I mean, and that companion would not have done that. Even that though there is a dialect of the Arabs which the word kadaba means when you do something wrong. And it doesn't necessarily mean to lie. Ala kulli hal, all of these evidences Nawawi brought as an argument for himself and a proof to use that it is permissible to backbite when you are warning the Muslims from an evil thing out there or an innovator. It is permissible. My beloved brothers and sisters, Imam Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah in his kitab Al-Ruh, the last pages, and Ibn Abdul Barr in his kitab Jami' Bayan al-Ilmi wa Fadli, they brought the hadith of Fatima bint Qais, both of them. And when they both brought it, they both mentioned, for hadith of Fatima bint Qais, which is Sahih Muslim, that Fatima bint Qais came to the messenger and she said, Ya Rasulullah, 2 men have asked for my hand in marriage. One is Abu Jahm. The second one is Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. Muawiyah who wants to marry me. And Abu Jahm who wants to marry me. The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said to her, he said to Fatima bint Qais, Muawiyah فَسُعْلُوكُ لَا مَالَ لَهُ. Su'luk means the person who is faqir, who has nothing. He is faqir, as Lisan al-Arab mentions. The second is Abu Jahm. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, ضَرَّابٌ لِلنِّسَاءِ. In another riwayah he says, لَا يُلْقِ الْعَصَىٰ عَنْ عَاتِقِهِ. He's a man who hits the women excessively. He beats women. Another narration he said, the Prophet ﷺ said, he doesn't take the stick off his shoulder. He's always hitting women. So the Prophet critiqued these 2 companions and warned Fatima bint Qais from them. He warned them from them. He warned her from these 2 individuals. And he gave her another alternative. He said, go marry Usama. My beloved brothers and sisters, I ask you this question. Fatima bint Qais' matter was a worldly issue. And the Prophet ﷺ gave her her rights in knowing what she's going to get herself into. How about if it's a matter pertaining to the religion? And this is what Ibn al-Qayyim says in his kitab Al-Ruh, and Ibn Abdul Barr in his kitab Jami' Bayan al-Ilm wa Fadli. They both say this, that the matter pertaining to the religion is far greater than a matter pertaining to the dunya. A woman comes up to you, she has the rights as a sincere brother of hers to say, sister, this brother is not for you. This is a worldly issue. This is a worldly issue. Then how is it that you see that same sister going to an innovator, learning from him? You're not sincere enough to tell her to save her religion and stop going to him. And that is what those 2 noble Imams, Ibn Abdul Barr and Ibn al-Qayyim, both pointed out. Now inshallah ta'ala, I'm going to mention some of the statements of the scholars. I'm going to mention different types of scholars. Al-Imam Ibn al-Jawzi in his kitab Al-Mawdu'at, he says the following. And I'm going to read these kalam and these statements on you inshallah ta'ala, for you to realize the issue of refuting innovators and what is it in our religion and what weight does it hold. Al-Imam Ibn al-Jawzi rahimahullah in his kitab Al-Mawdu'at, first volume, page 51, he says, قال أبو الوفاء علي بن عقيل الفقيه. أبو الوفاء علي بن عقيل الفقيه الحنبلي. He said, قال شيخنا أبو الفضل الهمداني. So, Ibn Aqil, Abu al-Wafa, Ali ibn Aqil, is saying, my teacher said, Abu al-Fadl al-Hamdani said, Mubtadi'ul Islam, the innovators of Islam. Pay attention. The innovators of Islam, وَالْوَاضِعُونَ لِلْأَحَادِيثِ, and the ones who place the narrations in our religion. Pay attention. The innovators in Islam and the people who fabricate narrations. They make up narrations. أَشَدُّ مِنَ الْمُلْحِدِينَ, they are worse than the disbelievers and the kuffar. This is the statement of Abu al-Fadl al-Hamdani, who is the Shaykh of the Shaykh of Ibn al-Jawzi. مبتدع الإسلام والواضعون للأحاديث أشد من الملحدين. Why? لأن الملحدين قصدوا إفساد الدين من الخارج. Because the disbelievers, they intended to harm the religion from the outer. وهؤلاء, but the innovators, قصدوا إفسادهم من الداخل, they intended to harm the religion from within. فهم, they are, the innovators are like كأهل بلد سعوا في إفساد أحوالهم. They are like the situation of a people who want to corrupt their own land. A people who want to corrupt their own town and their own city and their own village. The innovators are like that. وَالْمُلْحِدُونَ كَالْحَاصِرِينَ مِنْ خَارِجٍ. And the kuffar and the disbelievers are like a people who are around the fortress, who are not within the building or not within the city or the village. فَالدُّخَلَاء, the people who, the enemies who are within, which are the innovators, the enemies who are within, فَالدُّخَلَاء, the internal ones, the innovators who are inside, يَفْتَحُونَ الْحِسْنَ, they will open the fortress. فَهُمْ شَرٌّ عَلَى الْإِسْلَامِ مِنْ غَيْرِ الْمُلَابِسِينَ. They are more worse for Islam than those who are Muslims, or those who come across as Muslims. The innovator, his harm is within. Whereas the disbeliever harms you from outside. This person, you're shoulder to shoulder with him, you're next to him, and here he is, he causes harm within. So they're worse. That is the kalam of Shaykh Abu al-Fadl al-Hamdani, who is the teacher of Abu al-Wafa Ali ibn Aqil. Ibn al-Jawzi brought that statement of his in his kitab Al-Mawdu'at, first volume, page 51. Al-Hafiz Taqiyuddin Abi Muhammad Abdul Ghani ibn Abdul Wahid al-Maqdisi, the author of the kitab Al-Umdatul Ahkam. He has a book called Al-Iqtisad fi al-I'tiqad, page 223. He says the following. He says, وَاعْلَمْ رَحِمَكَ اللَّهِ أَنَّ الْإِسْلَامَ وَأَهْلَهُ أُوتُوا مِنْ طَوَائِفَ ثَلَاثَةٍ. He says, no, may Allah have mercy upon you. أَنَّ الْإِسْلَامَ, that Islam and its people. اعلم, know. رحمك الله, may Allah have mercy on you. أَنَّ الْإِسْلَامَ, that Islam, وَأَهْلَهُ, and the people of Islam, أُوتُوا مِنْ طَوَائِفَ ثَلَاثَةٍ. The harm came to them from three groups. Islam and its people have been harmed from three people. The harm has occurred to them from three types of people. Hayya. So the enemies that are harming Islam and that are causing harm to Islam are three types of people. فَطَائِفَةٌ, the first one, is the group رَدَّتْ أَحَادِيثَ الصِّفَاتِ. They rejected the ahadith pertaining to the characteristics and the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَكَذَبُوا رُوَاتَهَا, and they disbelieved in the narrators who have transmitted in it. They said they're liars. They're liars, the narrators who've transmitted these hadiths. فَهَؤُلَاءِ, the first type of people, أَشَدُّ ضَرَرًا عَلَى الْإِسْلَامِ وَأَهْلُهُ مِنَ الْكُفَّارِ. They are more harm to Islam and its people than the disbelievers. These people who've rejected the hadiths pertaining to the characteristics of Allah, who have classified the narrators who've transmitted these narration to us as liars, they are more of a harm to us than the mulhideen and the kuffar. This is the kalam of Shaykh Taqiyuddin Abi Muhammad Abdul Ghani ibn Abdul Wahid al-Maqdisi rahimahullah. وَطَائِفَةٌ, the second group. The second group. قَالُوا بِصِحَّتِهَا, they accepted these narrations. Ahadith al-Sifat, they said, yeah, it's authentic. It's authentic. They didn't reject it like the first group. They said, yes, it's authentic. وَقَبُولِهَا, and they accepted it. ثُمَّ تَأَوَّلُوهَا, but then after, they distorted its meanings. They said it's authentic, but the word Ar-Rahmanu ala al-Arsh istawa means istawla مثلا. Ya Iblis ma mana'aka an tasjuda lima khalaqtu biyaday. They said yaday means what? It means qudratay, ability, qudra. It means ni'mah. They've done ta'weel, meaning nafyu al-ma'na al-zahir, negating the apparent meaning that is in these characteristics and initiating a new meaning for it. But they've accepted the narration is sahih because it's in Bukhari, because it's in Muslim, because they've accepted it. But they distorted the meaning. فَهَؤُلَاءِ These ones أَعْظَمُ ضَرَرًا They are more of a harm مِنَ الطَّائِفَةِ الْأُولَى than the first group. Which one are the first group? The first group are the group that's worse than the kuffar. These are even worse than the group that are worse than the kuffar. وَالثَّالِثُ The third group جَانَبُ الْقَوْلَيْنِ They went side of the two groups. They took another path of the two groups. وَأَخَذُوا بِزَعْمِهِمْ And they claimed that they have taken the path of what? يُنَزِّهُونَ وَهُمْ يُكَذِّبُونَ That they are exalting Allah. But in reality they are disbelieving. So really the third group tried to make a third path, but what they fell into was that which the first group fell into and that which the second group fell into. وَكَانُوا And because of that they became أَعْظَمَ ضَرَرًا مِنَ الطَّائِفَتَيْنِ الْأَوَّلَيْنِ And because of that they became worse than the two previous groups. Now my beloved brothers and sisters, here Abdul Wahid al-Maqdisi is telling us there are people who've rejected the characteristics and the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who've classified those narrations to be weak, that they are more worse and that they are more of a harm for Islam and its people than the disbelievers. And then he mentions the second type of group of people. They've actually accepted those narrations and they've classified it to be authentic and graded it to be authentic, but they distorted its meanings. They are even worse than the first group. Now, someone may ask himself and say, how is this possible? The reason is because the person who seems to be closest to you causes you more harm. The one who seems to be accepting things, but his innovation, he's hiding it from you, this person becomes more of a harm for you than anything else. Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, in his Majmu' al-Fatawa, the 28th volume, page 231 to page 232, Ibn Taymiyyah says, وَمِثْلُ أَئِمَّةِ الْبِدَعِ من أهل المقالات المخالفة للكتاب والسنة أو العبادات المخالفة للكتاب والسنة فإن بيان حالهم وتحذير الأمة منهم واجب باتفاق المسلمين. Ibn Taymiyyah says, and the likes of the leaders of innovation, those who have statements that are in opposition to the Kitab and the Sunnah, or they have types of worship that are in opposition to the Kitab and the Sunnah. فَإِنَّ بَيَانَ حَالِهِمْ Clarifying these people's situation, sitting down to expose them and to clarify them, وَتَحْذِيرَ الْأُمَّةِ and warning the ummah from them, واجب باتفاق المسلمين. It is obligatory by consensus. It's wajib. So the hukum shar'i that it takes بيان حال المبتدعة وتحذير الأمة منهم, clarifying the situation of the innovators and warning the Muslims from them, is that it is wajib, it is obligatory. Leaving it, you're a sinner for leaving it. And this is a consensus by the Muslims. We're going to come to it. Is it fardu ayn or fardu kifai? We're going to come to that inshallah ta'ala. حتى قيل لأحمد بن حنبل until it was said to Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Who is this? Imam Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. This is the Imam of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. This is Imam al-Mubajjal, Ahmad ibn Hanbal. It was said to him, الرجل يصوم ويصلي ويعتكف أحب إليك. A man, an individual, he fasts, he prays, he does i'tikaf. Pay attention, this person is fasting, this person is praying, voluntary praise, acts of worship he's coming with. وَيَعْتَكِفُ, and he's doing i'tikaf in the masjid. أَحَبُّ إِلَيْكَ, is that person more beloved to you? أو يتكلم في أهل البدع, or he sits down and he refutes, exposes and speaks against the people of innovation. Who is more beloved to you? My beloved brothers and sisters, listen to this. This is a question put to Imam Ahmad, an Imam who has memorized thousands of narrations, that the Ummah, مشارق الأرض ومغاربها, the East, the West, the North, the South, they've unanimously agreed on his nobility and his makana. The Muslims, they've unanimously agreed upon it. That he is from the A'immatul Matbu'in, that is from one of the Imams that are followed. Rahimahullah rahmatan wasi'a, may Allah have on him great mercy. He was asked about a man who fasts, he prays, he does i'tikaf in the masjid. Do you love that person? Or an individual who speaks about the innovators, exposes the innovators, critiques the innovators, spends his life doing that? Who's more beloved to you? فقال Ahmad responded by saying, إِذَا قَامَ وَصَلَّى وَاعْتَكَفَ, if he stands up and he prays and he does i'tikaf, فَإِنَّمَا هُوَ لِنَفْسِهِ, he's doing all of that for himself. وَإِذَا تَكَلَّمَ فِي أَهْلِ الْبِدَعِ, but if he speaks about the innovators, فَإِنَّمَا هُوَ لِلْمُسْلِمِينَ, this is an act which he is doing for the Muslims. هَذَا أَفْضَلُ, this is better. لا شك, لا شك, that's better. Because the fi'l which is qasir, the act of obedience which is exclusive to you, is not as good as the fi'l, the ta'a, which is muta'addi, that involves others. The scholars, they say, for you to do an act of good for yourself and for you to involve others in the act of good, it is better that you do the good for others. Because the ta'a, which is muta'addi, the obedience which it transmits and it goes to others, is greater than the act that is specific to you. That's Imam Ahmad. Ibn Taymiyyah is going to benefit from us, from what Imam Ahmad said. He said, فَبَيَّنَ, he said, Imam Ahmad clarified to us, أَنَّ نَفْعَ هَذَا عَامٌ لِلْمُسْلِمِينَ, that the benefit of this, which is to speak about innovators, is a benefit that involves others. It brings other people in. You see, in what? Like in fi dinihim, in their religion. Speaking about the innovator is a benefit that is general for the Muslims and it protects their religion. It's better. And then Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah goes on to say, and that it is from min jinsil jihad fi sabilillah. Speaking about the innovators, critiquing them, criticizing them, exposing them, is from the jihad of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala's cause. Is his jihad, fighting fi sabilillah, in the cause of Allah. إذ تطهير سبيل الله, because purifying the path of Allah, ودينه, and his religion, ومنهاجه, and his methodology, his path, وشرعته, and his legislation, وَدَفْعُ بَغْيِ هَؤُلَاءِ وَعُدْوَانِهِمْ, and also repelling the oppression of these innovators, how they've exceeded their limits, and their enmity and their evil, wajibun al kifaya, it is an obligatory on some of the Muslims who have to stand for it. It's fardu kifai. باتفاق المسلمين, this is a unanimously agreed upon. There's no khilaf. That speaking about these innovators by repelling their evil, you see, and purifying them from this by purifying the path of Allah from the taint and the filth that they have thrown at it, and purifying the religion of Allah and His religion and His legislation, and repelling their oppression and their wrongdoings and their crimes, is wajibun ala al-kifayati bittifaq al-muslimin. Ibn Taymiyyah goes on to saying, وَلَوْلَا, and if it wasn't, مَنْ يُقِيمُهُ اللَّهِ, if it was not for those who Allah has made them stand for doing this, purifying the path of Allah, repelling these people's evil and their wrongdoings, if it wasn't for them, لِدَفْعِ ضَرَرِ هَؤُلَاءِ, by repelling the evil of these people, لَفَسَدَ الدِّينُ, this religion would have been corrupt. My beloved brothers and sisters, if these people who are defending the religion, and repelling the evil of these individuals, if it wasn't them, if they weren't doing that, لَفَسَدَ الدِّينُ, this religion would have been corrupt. وَكَانَ فَسَادُهُ, and the corruption that comes from it, it would be greater, أَعْظَمُ مِنْ فَسَادِ اسْتِيلَاءِ الْعَدُوِّ مِنْ أَهْلِ الْحَرْبِ, it will be greater from an enemy coming into the lands of the Muslims. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Kalamu Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah. The corruption that these innovators are going to cause, if there's no one standing up to defend the religion from their filth and their evil, what will happen? The enemies that come into the Muslim lands, the harm that they can cause is nothing in comparison to the harm that these innovators and these corrupted people will cause. فَإِنَّ هَؤُلَاءِ, so Ibn Taymiyyah is now going to give us why. Why is the istila al-adu min ahli al-harb lesser in harm than the fasad that these individuals can cause to our religion? He's going to explain to us. He says, فَإِنَّ هَؤُلَاءِ, because the reason is because فَإِنَّ هَؤُلَاءِ إِذَا اسْتَوْلَوْا, because these people, when the Ahlul Harb, the enemies of Islam, the kuffar, when they come into the lands of the Muslims, you see, لَمْ يُفْسِدُوا الْقُلُوبَ, they are not going to harm the hearts. وَمَا فِيهَا مِنَ الدِّينِ, and the religion that's still in the hearts of the people. The people know that this is a kafir, they'll stay away from him. They know he's an enemy, they will consider him as an enemy. So he won't be able to get to their hearts. But if he does cause harm to their religion, it's going to be إِلَّا تَبَعًا. It's after a period of time. It's not straight away, it's not directly. He's first of all going to take the land over, and then after that he's going to get to it. Whereas the innovators, وَأَمَّا أُولَٰئِكَ, as for the innovators, فَهُمْ يُفْسِدُونَ الْقُلُوبَ ابْتِدَاءً, they're straight away going to go to the hearts of the people. Because the people don't know, they can't tell the difference between them and you. So they're going to come to the masjid, they're going to preach their corruption and their evil. The people are silent about it, so they're going to harm the heart straight away. This is the kalam of Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. And wallahi, my beloved brothers and sisters, لولا الحفاظ الأكابر, if it was not from the noble scholars of hadith, if it wasn't for them and their defending of this religion, لخطب الزنادقة على المنابر, the disbelievers, the hypocrites will come and they will do khutbah for us on the pulpit. My beloved brothers and sisters, this is the kalam of Imam Dhahab in Sir Alam al-Nubala, and he also attributed that statement of his to also Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah. That being the case, wallahi, my beloved brothers and sisters, look at the Christians and the Jews. Look at the Christians, look at the Gospels. Is it called Gospels? Look how they sing, they chant. Is that their religion? But because their religion got changed, they turned their whole religion into music. Bit by bit they changed their religion. No one was stopping them. It was just going on. And the religion got tainted and it got... So our job, my beloved brothers and sisters, we defend our religion. and we protect its boundaries, and we don't let anybody come into it. That is protected. Al-Imam al-Shatibi rahimahullah, he said a statement that's powerful in his kitab Al-I'tisam. He said in the second volume, page 208. These are all the statements of the scholars, and I want you to see, because some may think this is a minority of scholars who've said this. Even though I brought the statement of all these scholars, I brought Nawawi rahimahullah, Ibn al-Jawzi, who's bringing the kalam of Ibn Aqil's teacher, and also the statement of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, and his doings, and how the Prophet ﷺ, and Imam al-Nawawi in his kitab Riyadh al-Salihin, a book that if you go to anyone's house today, majority of the Muslims have it in their households, a book that has been given qabul and acceptance. Many of people don't know. Al-Imam al-Shatibi in his kitab Al-I'tisam, the second volume, page 208, he says, حيث تكون الفرقة تدعو إلى ضلالتها وتزينها في قلوب العوام ومن لا علم عنده. Imam al-Shatibi said, when a group is calling to its misguidance, a group stands up and it calls to misguidance and deviation, and it starts to beautify it, وَتُزَيِّنُهَا فِي قُلُوبِ الْعَوَامِ, it starts to beautify this misguidance to the heart of the general mass. وَمَنْ لَا عِلْمَ عِنْدَهُ, and those who have no knowledge, they start to beautify it to them. فَإِنَّ ضَرَرَ هَؤُلَاءِ عَلَى الْمُسْلِمِينَ كَضَرَرِ إِبْلِيسِ. These people's harm is like the harms, these people's harm to the Muslims is like the harm of Iblis. وَهُمْ مِنْ شَيَاطِينِ الْإِنسِ, and they are from the shaitan of the humans. Because Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, He told us in the Quran, وَإِنَّ الشَّيَاطِينَ لَيُوحُونَ إِلَىٰ أَوْلِيَائِهِمْ لِيُجَادِلُوكُمْ أَمَا الشَّيَاطِينُ الْإِنسِ وَالْجِنِّ يُوحِي بَعْضُهُمْ إِلَىٰ بَعْضٍ زُخْرُفَ الْقَوْلِ غُرُورًا. There are shayateen al-ins, humans who are shayateen. So they are min shayateen al-ins. And their harm is like the harm of Iblis. Because why? They are calling to misguidance and deviation, and they're beautifying to the hearts of the general mass and those who have no knowledge. So they are harmful, just like Iblis is harmful, and they are from the shayateen and the armies of Iblis. And then he goes on to say, فَلَا بُدَّ, it is necessary, rather it is obligatory, مِنَ التَّصْرِيحِ بِأَنَّهُ مِنْ أَهْلِ الْبِدَعِ, that we clearly, فَلَا بُدَّ مِنَ التَّصْرِيحِ, it is wajib that we clearly say بِأَنَّهُ مِنْ أَهْلِ الْبِدَعِ, that they are from the innovators. Not beating behind the bushes. We say فُلان مِنْ أَهْلِ الْبِدَعِ وَالضَّلَالَةِ, and he's from the people of misguidance. وَنِسْبَتُهُمْ إِلَى الْفِرَقِ, and that we attribute them to the deviated sects that they're from. If he's from this group, we say he's from this group. If he's from this group, we don't be behind the bushes. لكن when لكن إذا قامت له شهود على أنه منهم, after you have witnesses, you have pure clear-cut evidences that he's from them. You don't want to take a person of the sunnah out of the sunnah unjustly. You have to have witnesses, proof for it. Then he goes on to saying, فَمِثْلُ هَؤُلَاءِ لَا بُدَّ مِنْ ذِكْرِهِمْ, those type of people, it is obligatory to name them. You have to say their name. وَالتَّشْرِيدِ بِهِمْ, and you have to disperse the people from them. When the people start gathering onto them and start listening, you tell the people, get away, move, don't stay with him. Tashreed means what? The people, you take him away from his gathering. فَمِثْلُ هَؤُلَاءِ لَا بُدَّ مِنْ ذِكْرِهِمْ, we have to mention them by name. Didn't the Prophet ﷺ mention the name of the companion? Didn't the Prophet ﷺ say, كَذَبَ أَبُو سَنَابِلْ, Abu Sanabil lied? Didn't the Prophet ﷺ say, مَا أَظُنُّ فُلَانًا وَفُلَانًا يَعْرِفَانِ مِنْ دِينِنَا شَيْئًا, I don't think so and so know anything of our religion. Did he not name them? Did he not name Abu Sanabil? He named them. And then he said, فَمِثْلُ هَؤُلَاءِ لَا بُدَّ مِنْ ذِكْرِهِمْ, it is obligatory to name them. وَالتَّشْرِيدِ بِهِمْ, and that you kick the people away from him. لِأَنَّ مَا يَعُودُ عَلَى الْمُسْلِمِينَ مِنْ ضَرَرِهِمْ إِذَا تُرِكُوا, because the harm that comes to the Muslims if they are left, if they're left alone, and then if everyone's like, don't talk, leave them alone, why are you refuting them for? If we leave them alone, the harm that comes to the Muslims is greater. أعظم من الضرر الحاصل بذكرهم, which is greater than the harm that will come if we name them. Pay attention here now. Naming them is going to have a harm. It's going to have a harm. The reason it's going to have a harm is because the people's hearts are probably going to turn away from you. The people are not going to want to listen to you because they are attached to him. Or he himself might get angry with you and stop talking to you. And he might have hate and enmity to you. And so disunity and division occurs. And that, no doubt, in Islam is a harm. It is a harm in Islam. But that harm that comes from naming him is less than the harm of naming him to save the religion. Saving the religion, the harm of us being silent about him and letting him do what he wants is greater than naming him. And the qa'idah, my beloved brothers, Imam al-Shatibi brings in his kitab is what? إِذَا تَعَارَضَ الضَّرَرَانِ, if two harms are both opposed, so we have two harms here, the harm of naming him and the harm of being silent about him. They're both harms. They're both going against each other. How do we resolve them? يُرْتَكَبُ أَخَفُّهُمَا وَأَسْهَلُهُمَا. And Imam al-Shatibi says what? We take the lesser of those two, وَبَعْضُ الشَّرِّ أَهْوَلُ مِنْ جَمِيعِهِ. And you have to now then take some of the evil, then taking all evil. And then he gives an example of what? كَقَطْعِ الْيَدِ, cutting the hand of a person who has cancer. Cutting this hand is a harm. But letting the cancer spread to the body is a greater harm because he's going to die. So here, we expose him by naming him. By naming him because the maslahah, the benefit that is in it is greater. Last but not least, my beloved brothers and sisters, I have lengthened this little reminder for you all, is that some people think that this is just an act of a group of minority who do this, and this is something not, you won't find this, even though I gave an extensive examples. And as my sheikh used to always say, our job is not to convince, our job is just to convey. So if what I said has convinced you, then that's good. If it hasn't, then my job isn't to convince you, my job is to tell you what I believe and the evidences that I provide you with. But all of you know, from the most authentic books after the Quran is Bukhari and Muslim. The Bukhari, Sahih al-Bukhari, and Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, his kitab is the most authentic book after the book of Allah. And the book that comes after it as Imam Muslim. As the poet said, وَأَوَّلُ مَنْ أَلَّفَ فِي الْكُتْبِ لَا the first person, أول جامع الحديث والأثر, the first person who compiled authentic book is Al-Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah. And that scholars differed whether he's more authentic or Imam Muslim. Naam. Abu Ali al-Naysaburi rahimahullah, he took the opinion that Imam Muslim's book is more authentic than the book of Imam al-Bukhari. And some of the Maghariba, they took the opinion that Muslim is more authentic than Bukhari. Ala kulli hal. Muslim's kitab is one of the most authentic books after Imam al-Bukhari's kitab, ala al-Rajih. Open Sahih Muslim, the Muqaddimah, the introduction. Look at it, read it. What do you find in it? You see with your own eyes Al-Imam Muslim bringing narrations where people are being criticized. The book is full of it. Just one example is what I'm going to give you. Imam Muslim rahimahullah, from his own sanad, his own chain, to Ibn Awn. He brings a sanad, ساق سنده منه إلى Ibn Awn. He brings it to Ibn Awn, that Ibn Awn said, قال إبراهيم النخعي. Ibrahim al-Nakha'i said, إياكم والمغيرة بن سعيد. Be cautious and stay away and protect yourself from Mughirah ibn Sa'id. وأبا عبد الرحيم, and also Aba Abd al-Rahim. فإنهما كذابان, because both of them are liars. Both of them are liars. Stay away from them. Be cautious. For verily both of them are liars. This is Ibrahim al-Nakha'i. the teacher of Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, Ibn Aoun says that I heard Imam Ibrahim al-Nakha'i said. So you know that this is something, the book you have, go to Sahih Muslim yourself. Look at the Muqaddim of Sahih Muslim. This is just one. Wallahi, you're going to find tons of them. Look at it and inshallah ta'ala you'll see it for yourself. So my beloved brothers and sisters, the khulasa is الرد على المخالف والنقد على أهل البدع, refuting the people of innovation and exposing them and clarifying their situation is how our religion was protected. The person who is refuting the innovator has to have ahliyah, has to be the right person for it. If the person doesn't possess knowledge and doesn't have understanding of the religion of Allah, then he shouldn't go forward in doing this. لأن فاقد شيء لا يعطيه. The one who doesn't possess knowledge, who has no understanding of the deen of Allah, should not be speaking about these issues. And the second one is the person who finds in himself ittiba' al-hawa, he follows his own whims and desires. That the only reason why he critiques this person is because of hawa, desires. Then he should withhold his evil and stay away from this. Because the person who's doing it has to do with ikhlas and adl, justice, fairness. لذلك Ibn Taymiyyah says, أهل السنة, the people of the sunnah are the ones that are most knowledgeable of the religion of Allah. And they are the most merciful to the creation. Ahl Sunnah are known for mercy and rahmah. That the person who you're refuting and that you're exposing, you're also asking Allah to guide them. Because your goal and your want is that Allah brings the people back to the haqq. This is more beloved to you than anything else. You wouldn't like anybody for Allah to punish them subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything which I have said, my beloved brothers and sisters, that was wrong and incorrect, فَإِنَّهُ مِنِّي وَمِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ وَاللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ بَرِيئَانِ مِنْهُ. It is from me and shaitan, and Allah and His Messenger are free from it. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أستغفرك وأتوب إليه.